So thank you very much. And I'm also very honored and pleased to be here, and I was invited to this great event. And I must mention that when I heard, and I actually met, as was mentioned, I met Joe Mestenhauser when I started working in the Fulbright, and it was my first trip to the United States, and we met in Minneapolis. And actually the director, Hanka Rybkova from the Fulbright Commission, introduced me to Joe Mestenhauser, and she actually mentioned how crucial he was in establishing the Project Fulbright program that was already mentioned, and that actually allowed a lot of medical, advanced medical students and scientists to go to the United States, to the University of Minnesota, which is actually a leading medical school in the United States. And I think that actually a lot of them actually became the leading professionals in the fields in the Czech Republic. So it was another actually footprint that he made in the history of actually developing Czech academic fields. And I think he made kind of so many that it's sometimes hard to even find that it was him at the beginning who started something that actually grew up, even by itself. And our panel will be more closely connected to the topic of international education, although I think we could talk about diplomacy, as was mentioned, everything. But I think international education became very important for him, as was mentioned, because of his experience of someone who came to the different culture and needed to understand different cultures and needed to understand that others would understand his culture, and kind of that would connect all around the world, kind of on the global-minded people, so to understand different cultural concepts. That was also mentioned by Eva. And when we look at internationalization or state of, this is very terrible word, I always say, like internationalization, it's a horrible word. We don't have any other, however. Maybe international education sounds a little better from my perspective, and actually international education is something I think I would say more closer to what actually Joe Mestenhauser meant than internationalization, because that sounds very technical. International education sounds more human. So some of the concepts that we see today, and some of the most advanced concepts that actually we see in very latest research in the field of international education, was something that he was already thinking about in 60s. Inclusive internationalization, as I mentioned, that's something that we hear very much these days at EAIE conferences, at NAFSA conferences. And that is something that maybe he didn't put that name on that label, but he was thinking about from the very, very beginning. Also, I also would like to emphasize the fact that he was, as a connector, he was, I think, one of the founders of NAFSA. And I think the ones who are involved in international education, NAFSA is the largest North American organization for international educators. NAFSA inspired Europeans, so they founded EAIE. So again, you have Joe Mestenhauser somewhere all the way to EAIE conferences that take place across Europe, where all professionals involved in international education meet, and they don't know about this. So I think this is really something that fascinates me completely. But we are here today also maybe to continue with his work by looking how his ideas and how the whole concept of international education is already included, because something has been already done, and many of his ideas have been actually put in action already in Czech education and other educational systems. But as he was Czech and he was very much connected to his roots in the Czech Republic, he was always interested in what's going on here. I think it's and as you as the audience are coming from Czech academic institutions and other institutions, it would be, I think, really great to maybe take a look at the Czech context of international education, maybe take a look at this, what state is Czech international education in higher education system has already take place, maybe what we can do better, where we are, and maybe where we're heading And I'm very honored to have actually three distinguished experts here, and each of them actually represent a different level of that perspective. And we have Professor Radka Vildová, that actually comes from the Ministry of Education. She's Director General for Higher Education Section, Research and Science. And also she served as a Vice Rector at the Charles University, and she's also, her academic career is connected with the Faculty of Education. So, and actually you'll see that all panelists have kind of educational background. So it's certainly something natural that brings them together to the field of international education or internationalization, as I mentioned. So it's not just like that administration that I think that ministry does a lot, or people at the Czech National Agency do a lot, or people at the university level do a lot. But there still must be that motivation from the educational point of view. My second speaker in this panel will be Aneta Sarjans from the Czech National Agency for International Education, DZS. She's head of study in Czechia unit there. And also, I think I should mention that she worked as a program officer, program director in IFS, which is a well-known organization for secondary level exchanges. And also, we have Leona Stashová, the vice rector of University of Hradecké Králové. And she also, before that, she worked as a vice dean at the Faculty of Education. So again, and I just didn't mention that Aneta studied developmental psychology, right? And also very much connected to the educational aspect of international cooperation. So without further ado, I would like to actually maybe start with that above picture, and I would like to ask Professor Vildová, what is actually needed for a bright future of higher education in Czechia, and maybe if you can take it from the perspective of international collaboration or internationalization of teaching and education in the Czech Republic at higher education institutions.
Okay, thank you for this question, and thank you for inviting me here. I must say that I was also the personal friend of Joško. Joško was at the end of the 20th century, so it seems it is very long ago. No, it was at the beginning of the 21st century. He was very often at the Faculty of Education, and we have a dean of the Faculty of Education, Associate Professor Jan Čařík, and he was also at that time at the faculty, and we arranged a lot of activities for his American friends who were coming to Prague, to Faculty of Education, as his guest, as also as our guest. And what we appreciated at that time, he was very open to give us a lot of research sources, because we were under the communist time very long time. We didn't have any literature. We didn't have a result of researches from the Western Europe and also from America, and he was so open all the time. He had a lot of suitcases with very heavy books, and he paid a lot of at the airport for the weightage. But we were very glad, and we worked with these books, and we appreciated very much. So it was our Joška. So thank you for inviting me. And he was the person, amazing person. But what you didn't meant, he was also a sportsman. I met him. He was water skier. Yeah, he was perfect in that. I saw him, and he was very good. And also, 5 years before he left us, maybe 7 years before he left us, he did it at the very big lake. He sent me some pictures, and he was very active in this so-called old age, but he still was very young in his mind. So just to say about what is going to make our future of education bright is a very general question, but I try to answer in some comments, in some remarks. The first one, I try to be very brief. The first one is to have a very strong strategy of development of higher education, research and science, which will be realistic, but also in one time which will be accepted as priority, a real priority of the government. But not only as of the government, but also for each person in political science or scenario, because that's a big problem. The government say, okay, we accept that that's our priority, but in reality, the other politicians say, well, we had the other priority. So no, there must be so-called agreement, there must be very clear that this is priority with all necessary steps and area which should be meant in this strategy. The second one is the quality. The quality is a very general term, but I mean quality and self-evaluation of the work of universities, but not only on the level of study programs, but also on the level of the internationalizations, human relations, and the others areas. So this is also very important, and there is the man, vice president of the National Accreditation Agency, and they are very hard working on the new quality system, quality assurance system in our university and higher education system, and we try to cooperate together with them. So I think this is on the way. The third point is development and protection of human sources, not only academic, not only researchers, but also the students as our partners at university. So this is so-called capacity building in many different views, and also the care about the personal development of each who is on the field of higher education. So not only the skills, not only knowledge, but also the feeling that I am collaborative person, I am respected person who respect the other ones and their results, and I am in a team of these people. So this is very important and very new thing now at university, and I'm very proud about that. This is the development of so-called pedagogical competencies to have the best teacher, not from the point of research only, but also from the pedagogical performance at each university, which is very important. And this is what also Joska came here and told us, well, this is your gray zone at this moment of in your education. The fourth one is about the climate, environment, about the stable environment, safe environment, cooperative environment, and productive and positive climate. Which means also the freedom in education, the freedom in research, the freedom in contacts to each other, and personal development of each person. The fifth one are the improving study programs, the assurance of the quality of our study programs, which should be flexible, innovative, using, of course, innovative methods, but also which should be directed what the society asks for, what the population asks for, not only what the university supposed to produce in their study program, but also together with that, look what is necessary. So we now see the chips, we see the social pedagogy, we see psychologists, we need those persons. So this is also what we need to look for as the issue of the study program. The sixth one is research, and there is a main point to improve the cooperation around not only Czech Republic but around Europe and the world as well. So we do a lot under the umbrella of European project, but still there are a lot of what we can do. And what is very important, we do that, but we have a lack of transfer into the real life, or transfer into the other research potential. So this is really what we need to improve, and we feel that, and we do it as a maximum in this moment, but we feel there is the gray zone, as I said. And another point about the research is excellence in research. We have to find the real way how to support the excellent researchers, excellent research result, excellent research processes. So we are a small country, we are a country without the petrol or whatever, but we have a talented people, a very good researchers. And if they are team working together with their partners around the world, they could be much better, not if they are only separately one in the Czech Republic. So we really have to support their excellence from the point of internationalization. So internationalization as a point, the seventh one, this is not only about mobilities. We started in 19th with mobility of teachers, we started with mobility of researchers, academics and so on. Well, but we have to establish in the Czech Republic real internationalized, help me? Internationalized environment. So it means that everybody who is here will feel as a part of this process. So it doesn't mean if I am not at Erasmus or somewhere abroad, I will not feel to be the part of the family of internationalization in the Czech Republic. That's a terrible word, I must say. We have to find, this is another grant we will support, to find the right word. I'm very sorry, but really, this is very important. This is important not only for research, not only for education, but for professional development of each person and for teamwork of the people. So we feel that this is the question of curricula, this is the question of rules, of culture, of environment around the people at the university. So this is a very important point. And I'm very proud to say that at this moment, almost half of our public universities are the member of the International University Alliances. At this moment, there are 12. We have 26 public universities, so almost half of them are under the umbrella of university alliances. So this is absolutely good step, and for the future, bright future of the Czech Republic is very important. The eighth point is 10, enough. Eighth point is legislation, so this is also what we have to improve, and we feel that, and now we are working on two improvement and new version of Higher Education Act. The first one is just for improving the excellency for PhD students, but not only that ones. There are many other issues, but the PhD students and improving the quality is the main one. And the second one is about the quality. This is what we do with the National Accreditation Office, and we feel it must be ready under the umbrella of this government. 9 is not very important, but I have to say, because you will have the comment, she didn't say anything. Those are the finances. Finances as a key point at the beginning, also in the end, but this is about the money for the future, as to have not only enough, because now our university they have a very serious problem with financing from the government. We feel that, we try to do our best. But this is also to have the money stable, to be clear about the money for the coming years, to see how much money will I have at my university in period of 2, 3, and 4 years, how the government will send the money for research, how much will send, and according which roles, and so on. So this is really important, and there is not very much other comment that we have to fight for this money, and there is a very big thanks to universities because they are very much supporting Ministry of Education to get this money for the future. And last one is very easy one. It is about infrastructures. We have also, for the bright future, look for the places, the best laboratories, for infrastructures, for communities where the people will do their research, where they cooperate, and where they will have the chance to transfer not only into our community but also for the international community as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Vildová, for was very comprehensive overview of the task that we should do. But I think I'm really glad that there is such a clear vision that at the ministry in many very specific aspects. Now we'll stay at the national level, but we'll move to Czech National Agency because Czech National Agency is kind of the executive agency for international programs. So they people at the Czech National Agency, they have very practical view of particularities of international cooperation. And I'm very pleased that we have Aneta here because she can share outcomes of the research that was actually done by the national agency focusing on international students in the Czech Republic. And so actually there are many times there are calls for fact-based or evidence-based policies, and I think that research like this actually helps with making the decisions in the direction that is needed. So I'm passing floor to Aneta, and I'll ask her to present the results of the research and maybe provide some comments with it as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jakub. First of all, I want to say that it's a great honor to be sitting here next to you because you were working in DZS before me. And it was actually, since I started in DZS, I was trying to kind of match your level of knowledge. And it's been very difficult, let's say. But even though I respect you very much in that matter, I'm very happy to see that I'm not the only one struggling with the word internationalization. So I apologize in advance if I struggle with pronouncing it as well. Today I will be mostly talking numbers. I'll start with a brief overview before I move a bit further and before I continue and kind of react to what Professor Vildová said, because as she said, we need positive climate and we need students to be happy, which means they need to be integrated and they need to have support that they need. For having good studying experience and a good cultural experience as well. Just so you have a rough idea, in Czechia, in all universities or higher education institutions, we have over 300,000 students, out of which over 55,000 is international, which corresponds to 18%. If I should mention one success that we have in this matter, this is the first one, because 18% is a really high number if we compare it to the rest of Europe, for example. It's still not enough, but there will be a different topic. Yeah. Also, so you know, because that's relevant to things that I'm going to be saying afterwards, almost 70% of those students actually study in Czech. So only the rest study in English programs. The next slide will show you why that is. If you look at the first There we go. First places, the most students we have are from Slavic countries, so it's very easy for them to learn the language and to actually start studying in Czech. However, it's not only them. If you look a bit further, for example, the US in full degree programs is on 15th spot. By the way, interesting fact, Czechia is a very popular destination for American students or the US students because, for example, for exchange programs, they're on the 4th place. So this is very positive. If we move to the next slide, there we go. There we go. I don't see the presentation on the screen here, so I'm just going to be kind of peeking to the screens behind me and then over there. If you look at the integration, which is a really important factor for the students, the numbers are pretty positive. You can see that out of 10 international students feel integrated with other international students, so being integrated in the international community is very easy for them. 6 out of 10 feel integrated with Czech students, and 7 out of 10 consider the local community to be welcoming. This looks really positive. However, you have to keep in mind that this is students who study in Czech as well as in English. Because if you look at the students who study in English programs, the numbers are significantly different. I would like to mention that we consider Slovak students as international, which kind of changes the data. Because if you look to the other side of the slide, you see that Slovakia is over 90% feeling integrated. And then you've got the other countries. Same if you look to the study program. Czech language programs, 75%. English language, 41%. So there is a big difference in that. Next slide. Yeah. By the way, if I go just a quick note with the integration, if we look at the US students, the numbers are visibly lower. It's sometimes even more than like 20% points that they don't feel integrated in the community. There we go. Student services and living conditions. Here again, 9 in 10 international students are satisfied with the attitude of the administrative staff. 8 in 10 respondents appreciate the availability and clarity of information provided. 9 in 10 students rate transportation positively. This is, by the way, very interesting because transformation is apparently something that we're very strong at. Again, here though, if I, for example, look at the availability and clarity of information, here we have over 80% of students who are happy with that. If you look at US students, it's around 40%. And here as well, if I look at the context of the US in comparison to Czechia, it's that the approach is very particular and they expect kind of different services. If you are studying in the US, even in high school, you have high school counselors who help you to choose where you want to go study after. They help you map the university world, let's say. If you're thinking about a career, you've got career counselors who are going to help you choose what you're supposed to do. You get information automatically. This is something that we don't have here. So these students, when they come here, they kind of experience a cultural shock because what they're supposed to do is very different. Now counting with that as well, that they don't speak Czech, they don't feel integrated in the community, and they're struggling with a completely different culture that works completely different, it makes it very difficult for them. Which brings me to the side on the right, where we see the room for improvement. For example, 77% of students is happy with the services that student organizations provide. Again, this is a number of Czech and English-speaking students together. If you look only at the numbers of English-speaking students, it's way less. We could probably, and we can start a discussion about why that is, because this is something I don't have like rough data on. However, it could be connected, obviously, to the language barrier. I assume it is. What else? And I think we all know the Czech society that it's not that easy for us to speak English. It's not that automatic, like in some other countries, for example. It may be connected to the approach of the teachers as well, or educators that they have in universities. Even though interesting fact again, another number, 8 out of 10 students are happy with the level of English that their educators provide. And it's also one of the reasons why especially the US students are unhappy here. That's one of the first things they mention. I seriously can't see. Counseling services, very important. Happy I could read that. 73% happy with counseling services. Again, the US students, one of the most unhappy students when it comes to counseling services. Again, the reason is connected to the fact that if you compare our counseling services to the West and to the US, it's a very different level. You have to ask for the information. You don't have somebody who's there for you all the time. So they struggle with that. And if I was to mention one thing that I think should be kind of addressed at the university levels, it's exactly that. Because, and I believe that you might be talking about that as well after, the problems are raising when it comes to mental health. There is more and more expectations, and there is more and more support needed, not only in Gen Z, but even in previous generations. On the West, for example, my experience is I studied in the UK, so my experience is that there is a well-being center where you can come and you get support if you need to. And it's completely automatic. If you have mental health issues, there's people to talk to you. If you're going through a cultural shock, which is something that is inevitable if you move to another country, you have somebody to talk to you. This is something that I think is developing in Czechia, so I don't want to say that this doesn't exist here at all. It is not true. It varies university by university, so please don't take this as a general judgment that I'm throwing here and saying that nobody's doing that. But this is something that still needs work, let's say. And also keeping in mind that it shouldn't be only for Czech students, because having services in Czech is great. However, we still have the 30% of students that don't get the help that they need, even though it's actually more difficult for them because they have the language barrier that the ones studying in Czech don't have. Yep. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much for sharing the challenges that we find out in the research that was made with international students. And actually, I think some of the things that was mentioned was really targeting to what's going on at the university. So I think it's time to move to the level of the institution, and I'm really glad that we have very experienced and very knowledgeable expert here, Leona Stashová from University of Hradec Králové, and I'm passing microphone to her.
Thank you so much, Jakub, and good afternoon to all of you. I'm really honored to be here, and I will represent this, let's say, small regional university. We have at about 6,000 of students, and we are located in a region where actually Joe Mestenhauser was born. So we have also our links to him, yeah, at least at this level. What I would like to mention is that I'm convinced that the university education has two main parts. This is the professional growth and professional development, and the second one is the personal growth. And it means that looking at the personal growth, it can be helpful to use the generational approach, generational perspective. Because looking at the generation which is now at the university can help us understand their needs and expectations, and then also shape the activities and education for them. So let me very briefly, I will not bore you with it, only briefly mention some key features of Generation Z. So these are people born between 1995 and 2010. So they were born and raised in new social, political, economic, and technological realities. They were raised in the age of internet. They are digital natives, and they prefer in many ways digital communication. What does this mean? It means that they sometimes also live in their social bubbles. and they face the diversity, but not many times they live the diversity. They particularly also care about mental health and work-life balance, and they are somehow sensitive to stress, as we could experience during the COVID time. What they are also interested in are global issues, and they are prepared to be active, which is very important for us as well. What we are experiencing at our university, and our example, my experience from our university, what we are facing, what we are experiencing last years among our students with relation to internationalization and international activities. For first, we can see how after COVID, the interest in outgoing mobility has increased. The students are again very much interested in going abroad, which was not always the case before the COVID. Yeah. Secondly, I would like to mention that we experience that they are very much interested in short-term mobilities. They want to spend shorter time abroad, like, let's say, a taster of international experience abroad, physical international experience, and then after that they sometimes say, oh yeah, I could manage, that's good, I could go for a longer time abroad, yeah. So it's very helpful for them to encourage them to go. For third, we can see, and for my generation is surprising, they are interested in online activities, and they are quite popular among them. Let me mention only one example. It was during the COVID time. The students spent one semester online, full semester online, and we received an invitation from our international partners for 6 weeks summer school online only. And I was totally skeptical because I thought nobody could be interested. Nobody, because they were online all the semester, all the month, so nobody. But surprisingly, there were quite many applicants interested in this. And after the really 6 weeks intensive online meetings, online work, teamwork, and some of my colleagues know the project, so they know what I'm talking about. We had a feedback session, and they were so enthusiastic about that. And they were talking about, for example, online morning walks, and I was looking at them, what was it? And it was about some kind of online activity which was possible to do online, but actively in their cities when they were located, so something really very new. So I feel that the students are open to new activities, they are open to new ways, to new activities that they can help them in internationalization. What we also face is that we, and I'm very happy for this, they are open to a voluntary jobs in Erasmus student network. So now we have really quite many applicants, many students in recruitment who just want to do this job voluntary, which is surprising because again, some years ago, it was very difficult to attract students to go and to work with the Erasmus team and to do this job voluntary. So these are only some features that I mention as some new facts we experience and we could use them. For third, let me mention how the internationalization could help our students as a tool for development of their soft skills and social skills, which I feel this is the part of this personal growth, and it is also very important, and this is what we want to support by our students. So what they can learn, and really they are experiencing this very often, is that they can learn critical thinking. They need to meet different cultures. Again, I'm coming back to the social bubbles. Sometimes they really are only with their peers in some social environment, and they need to meet different cultures to be able to develop their critical thinking and maybe independent thinking as well. So go out from the social bubbles. Then they need, and it could again help them to develop their personal skills and personal abilities, is teamwork, to find consensus, to balance different needs and expectations, to discuss things together. And this brings also some kind of empathy and social sensitivity, which is also very important, and this can help them to do this. We could also mention the identity development and personal growth again. And on top of that, I'm sure this intercultural fluency that can be developed by many activities, this is something what they need today, because it is one of the crucial global skills, and we need to prepare students for the global world and for the global market and for living in the global world. So I am sure that internationalization in international activities, international experience, however, I think it doesn't matter how we call it, yeah, whether internationalization or international education. So it is something we need to have at our universities, to have it for everybody, every student. We can't afford to support all the students for physical mobilities abroad. Unfortunately, the financial sources are not so high for this, but I'm sure we can prepare activities for all the students to develop their international experience at the university. And this means we need to be creative, to think creatively, and to bring students on board. As Professor Veldova already mentioned, it's so important because they are creative and they are able to help us to shape new activities or things that could be helpful for their generation. And as Professor Veldova mentioned, the national framework would help us for sure, and the students, and also international students at our universities are helping us a lot because of they are enabling us to do this internationalization at home. So I'm sure there is a perfect space in the Czech Republic for supporting our students, and from the generational perspective, I'm sure the students are interested, and our role is to support them, to provoke them, and to prepare the situation for them the best way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I must say, what we discussed, about the visions that actually Joschka Mestenhauser had, I think that he would be very happy with this panel because he could hear, how the theory is actually turning into practice on national level, on the level of the programs and research by the Czech National Agency, but also on very innovative approaches of the universities on the very ground, working with students. And we heard about the bubbles, we heard about the culture, we heard about the comprehensive internationalization at home, that international experience must be bring to everyone, even if they don't travel abroad, because for some reason they can't, because of the funding, because of the family responsibilities and so on. So thank you very much. Thanks to all our panelists. That was really great. And now we have a couple more minutes for questions or comments. So if anyone would like to ask questions or comment on something that was mentioned here.
Thank you. I would like to react to Leona. I would sign what she said about the Gen Z because I dive in this community very intense now, but for my life. Also, I would add one thing, what work with the Gen Z, to invite them to create maybe the program, I mean the curriculum, not curriculum, but maybe the class, the content. They like that. They like that to be invited or to be creators. This is other significant characteristic. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana, for sharing that. Going back to students sitting at the table, right? Yeah.
First, thank you, Eva and Mestenhauser Institute for International Cooperation for the invitation. My name is Denis Gánik. I'm from the Faculty of Education, Masaryk University, and collaborated with Eva in the past. I would like to take the opportunity that most of the panelists are of educational background, like me, and would like to ask them the following questions. a question. Do you think, can you envision that international education, as coined and described by Josef Mestenhauser, could become a discipline or international approach established at universities in the Czech Republic? And what would that take? Any panelists?
It's difficult. I think this is about context very much, and this is about the process. This is not only about to have the new subject. This is about environment. This is about connection to the others' activities, to all the activities we are doing at universities. So I think this is dynamic process which connect all what we are trying to do at universities. This is our vision of how to work for the future with very high standard of quality for the society. This is what I feel. This is principle, if I can say this way.
Hello, thanks for hosting this great event. My name is Adriana Kudrnova-Lovera, and I work with EFMD Global, which is an international association of business schools. We have over 900 business schools from around the world that take part. And my question is for Aneta. I'm curious to hear about outgoing Czech students. Is there any data around how many students are taking part in these international programs? And how do you see that going in the future?
Thank you. Do you speak about any specific country or
No,
worldwide?
Yeah, generally Czech students going abroad.
Well, in general, it's the approach to Erasmus is positive and it's growing. The numbers are growing, which is super positive. And our goal in DZS is actually to have like the whole population year, let's say, take part in one of these activities, even through like motivating them if we do the internationalization at home. So we're hoping that this is going to be the goal, and this is where it's actually heading, because every year we see the growth in numbers when it comes to Erasmus. I know that, and I think there is people from universities that will actually have better information on that than me. That some countries, for example, and sometimes there is a lot of students who actually want to apply, looking specifically at you two because you're the closest to confirm that I'm not lying, that actually there is often more students than spots when it comes to, for example, Erasmus.
Regarding degree students, because Czech National Agency runs the exchange programs like Erasmus, or government scholarships and so on. So I don't think that there is really comprehensive statistics that is kept on the Czech side, but usually it's kind of the combined information from the destination countries. So I think the UNESCO's got statistics, but usually I think the only problem is that it's usually, I think, 2 years old or so. So usually you don't really have a snapshot of the situation at the moment. Some countries are keeping statistics, like specifically United States, they have, for example, open doors. So you can learn, how many Czech students went to the United States for various levels of education. So basically, it's from the previous year, so it's pretty fresh. So, for example, for the United States, it's quite clear. I think that some other countries can have that type of statistics, but usually it's the destination country that gives statistics of the students who are coming to that country. I don't think that there is a system in the Czech Republic that does it, because sometimes it's kind of very individual way how students actually go there. So there's no like a funnel or channel that actually could be tracked so easily where people go and what they do there.
I think we will have to leave it at that and answer questions after a little while, because we will invite you for some lovely refreshments, whether with coffee or wine, in a little bit. But I do want to thank you very much deeply for the diverse perspectives of this wonderful panel. Thank you for taking our invitation to this and sharing your opinions. It's been a pleasure to listen to you from the different perspectives on international education and internationalization. So thank you so much. And with that, I will invite, thank you. I will invite Dr. Jos Balen, who is actually going to close our event today. Dr. Balen serves also on the board of the Mestenhauser Institute for International Collaboration and is a trainer and is a researcher with us, but also is the director of the Center on International Education, if I simplify it, and you forgive me, in The Hague, and is an acclaimed author of one of the concepts that has been voiced here, internationalization at home, very a proponent of this concept around Europe. I could go on, but I'll say one more thing, that you have received a presidential award for your work in international education, and we are happy that you will take the closing words and the highlights of this event. So thank you, Jos.
Thank you, Eva, for inviting me. I think we've seen and heard some struggles with the word internationalization this afternoon, not only to pronounce it, but also to understand it, because I'm sure people have very different understandings in this room. But I think somehow, in general, we all think internationalization is something positive, is something good. And I think we should question that inherent goodness, because we know that in some cases, some people benefit a lot more than others. And we also know that internationalization has unintended consequences, also the title of a book that recently appeared. Simon Marginson, one of the prominent writers about international education, claims that the current definition of internationalization, which is spread over the whole world, the definition by Jane Knight, leads to, as he calls it, Euro-American dominance. And so who profits the most from internationalization? I think it will serve us to engage with the movement of critical internationalization as it has developed over the past years. But I think we will always have paradoxes. For example, the Canadian universities that preach critical internationalization also recruit international students for profit. We are trying to save the environment, but yet we are trying to stimulate mobility. So the paradoxes, I think, will always be there. For me, the legacy of Joe Mestenhauser was in the systemic approach that Eva explained, bringing internationalization into the system of the university and not being content with a small, and the group has been called the cultural elite, the students who go abroad, the students who choose the international electives, but trying to reach all students, in other words, internationalization at home. And Hanneke and Joe Mestenhauser together were in a group that sort of pushed up internationalization at home until 2004, I think, Hanneke, and then another group of people took it over and never left it anymore. So it is still very much alive thanks to the efforts of that group. So what we need to do, I think, and then looking at the future, if we want to reach all students, we need to reach many academics. And this is not training them in internationalization. This is working with academics through action research, for example, on how to bring the soft skills that Leona mentioned, the ethical questions, decolonization, all those complicated concepts, global citizenship, how to unpack that in the context of a study program. And this is not something that you can train people in. You have to do it together with them. And I'm happy to be involved in a project with 3 Czech universities and some others, and also Minnesota, on professional learning communities for internationalization, where academics together discuss these topics and together find solutions and question each other. So it is a much better way, I think, to develop the skills of academics. Finally, I'm a researcher and I have to keep myself busy. So we need to do more research on international education. I'll give you one recent finding of our research. You probably all know virtual exchange or collaborative online international learning. That's become very popular, although it existed pre-pandemic as well. Collaborative online international learning. Well, we've interviewed a number of academics and educational advisors, and collaborative learning is completely missing in action. And so we are not achieving the potential of collaborative learning. In other words, also not the potential for inclusion. So this sort of research into educational practices, I think, is something we need to do more of. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jos, for leaving us with some critical thoughts and questions. And I'm sure that we are full of ideas, and maybe we heard something at the panels and we would love to connect and have more questions and answers. So with that, I warmly invite you to, as a community, to use our space next door for refreshments, and I hope that international education will be carried on and out in your conversations even further on. And with that, please join us for wine and cheese, coffee and tea next door, and connect with new people. Find your answers, ask more questions, and let's cheer for international education in the Czech Republic. Thank you.